Hello, everybody. My name is Ethan, and welcome to my astrology podcast. I'm so excited to be starting this podcast to share my passion for astrology, tarot, and divination with you. So today's episode is going to feature the astrological transits for April 2026. And before we get into that, I'm going to share with you guys a little bit about me and my practice and how you can book a reading if you enjoyed this podcast episode. So, I got into astrology several years ago during a very difficult period in my life. And I found astrology to be more helpful than any psychotherapy or self-help book I read. And as I studied astrology, I witnessed a transformation in my own life, becoming more connected to people and the cosmos itself. So, my passion is helping you heal, transform, and self actualize using this incredible ancient language that we're so lucky to have to reference today. And my philosophy of astrology and how I approach readings is in a bit of an evolutionary phase at the moment. But what I will say I try to convey through my astrology and that I really appreciate about astrology is that it never says we need to be perfect. It never says there's a finish line. It never says there's anything we need to be complete as, because astrology is the model of how the cosmos changes and how that reflects our lives changing. And so astrology allows life to change. It allows us to grow. It allows us to awaken new possibilities and potentials in the world. And so hopefully by walking through the astrology of April today, you'll be seeing that in action a bit to guide you through the month, because it is definitely not a month that is going to be necessarily easy. There is a lot of confrontation, but it is also clarifying and pushing us to new strength within ourselves. So if you enjoy the reading as you listen to it today and you're interested in booking a personal reading with me, you can go to https colon the two slash marks ethan-paisley.com. And you'll see two different readings you can book with me. One is a natal chart reading. The other is a natal chart with a tarot reading. And I plan to add more services soon as we grow this community. So thank you so much for being here. Okay, let's get into this big astrology for April 2026. If you follow astrology, you've probably been hearing astrologers talk about this month for a long time, because not only is there a lot of activity around new beginnings and ambitions and moving towards more action, which can also mean chaos. There is also the shifting of two planets into a new sign simultaneously. And that is going to mark the end of a huge cycle and the beginning of a whole new one. So let's get into it. I'm going to start by recapping the beginning of the month and we'll work our way through. So last week was the first week of April. And there was a full moon in Libra on Thursday, April 2nd. So if on Thursday you felt like you were being called to find some balance, to find some regulation in yourself, to find harmony, that is what Libra encourages. It encourages us to be in touch with the senses, to be in touch with our environment, to connect with other people. And also to have conversations that challenge our own notions of self. So when you have a full moon in Libra, it means that the sun will always be in Aries. So when the sun is in Aries, our life energy can be very self-focused. And a full moon in Libra is really nice because it kind of brings us outside of ourselves a bit. And it helps us see whatever we're going through a bit more objectively and through the lens of other people. So I hope that that Libra full moon brought that to you. Now getting into this week. So heat begins turning up. We already have a couple planets in the sign of Aries. So the sun is there at the moment, and so is Saturn and Neptune. So Aries and any planets that are in Aries are hot. They're fiery. Aries is a fire sign. And they're the kind of fire that gets us going, right? That initiates. It's the kind of fire that sparks us into action. And usually, what sparks us into action, right, can be friction, can be tension. So that's why Aries kind of gets branded as hot-headed or impulsive because it's able to initiate based on those tensions that just have to come out. This can be very creative and productive via the Aries archetype, but it can also be, as you could tell, a bit destructive and destabilizing and just feel a bit intense and packed with heat. So, the planet that rules Aries, Mars, is going to be going in to Aries Thursday, April 9th. Now, if you're new to astrology and this language feels a little confusing, just bear with me. I will try to explain as best I can between the lines. But Mars is going into Aries. Now, Mars is a planet that is all about action, that is all about starting. It is all about being focused on what we want. And that's why it's the planet that rules Aries, because Aries wants very similar things, right? It wants to start, it wants to go, it wants me and what I want now. So on Thursday, April 9th, we could be experiencing a bit more of that energy of self-righteousness, of self-belief, of like, let's go for it. And as I said, this can be wonderful. This can bring action. This can make things happen. But if it's not cautioned or balanced, it can also feel a bit wobbly and unstable. A note on the collective as well. We are seeing a lot happen in the world right now related to wars and conflicts and arguments and division. I hate to say it, but April does not look like a healing month in this way. It looks like a month where there could be more divisions splintered, where there could be more conflicts and more arguments. And I say that not to scare us, but to rather get us in the mindset that that is what could be happening. And so if we're conscious of that, then it's not that we avoid confrontations, but we're more conscious that they're happening. So on Thursday, April 9th, this feeling, this sensation of the heat that's in the air right now gets a little hotter. So we just want to be aware of that. Now, on Sunday, April 13th, Mars gets into a conjunction with the planet Neptune. And a conjunction is when two planets are in the same spot in the sky. So conjunctions represent those two energies coming together and creating sort of a whole new energy. So Mars, which loves to go, is melding on Sunday with Neptune, which likes to dream, which likes to figure out its own imagination, which likes to explore consciousness. These two energies don't necessarily love each other. How this could manifest is we could be really set and going one direction, but then we see that maybe the idea or the ideal we had is unsustainable in some way, or it's destructive. And it may cause us to pause and reevaluate our ideals, and whether what's in our imagination is supportive of real life. That's often a question that comes with any Neptune transit, is trying to figure out reality from fantasy. Um, Another possibility for this transit, and a way I would recommend channeling it if it feels potent for you, is to spend this day visualizing, imagining, being in conscious connection with with what the best course of action looks like for you. Because Mars can get stressed. Mars can just keep going and it cannot know when to stop. So when it meets with Neptune, it actually offers us a bit of vacation from action and a bit of reevaluating and refocusing. Um, Neptune almost has this retrograde energy to it. So if Mars is going through Neptune, then Mars is sort of in this retrograde feeling. It's not an actual retrograde, but it feels retrogradish to me. Okay? So that is this week, two major transits we have. Okay, now as we get deeper into the month, the story thickens. Okay, we have another planet go into Aries on Wednesday, April 15th, and that's Mercury. Mercury is the talker, right? It's how we communicate, it's how we get along, it's how we hear each other. And when Mercury goes into Aries, it's really good at hearing itself. It's really good at hearing its own ideas and convictions, but it can struggle a little bit with hearing others. Communication on this day could feel just generally more intense. We could be thinking more about ourselves, and that can be good in the sense that we are in touch with our motivation and our drive. But it can also mean we are a little bit in our own world and maybe a little less considerate of others. On Friday, April 17th, Mercury does the same thing as Mars, and it makes a conjunction with Neptune. So this could be a point where we are reevaluating communication. We're doing a bit of reflection about, how we've been communicating, how we've been thinking. We could also be doing a lot of sifting around the truth. Okay? If Mercury's the messenger and Neptune is dreams and illusions, then probably on this day, April 17th, there's going to be some significant controversy with AI or with media where there's like a huge news story that drops and we all feel like terrified, but then it turns out in the end to be AI generated. I mean, that is happening literally every day, but this is a classic signature for news that's just not true or communication that is false and concealing the truth. So just be on the lookout for this that day. Lying, deception. This can also be with ourselves, right? So, are we lying to ourselves? Are we telling ourselves something that isn't true or isn't good for us? Okay, now on Friday, April 17th, the same day, the new moon is happening in Aries. Okay, so new moons are points of reflection and slowing down and planting seeds for the next cycle. So this new moon in Aries is probably going to be like a reset for our nervous system, like a day where we feel that Mercury, Mars going into Aries, and we feel like we need some downtime. We need some reflection time. We could just be feeling exhausted on this day. We could be feeling a bit defeated. We could be feeling just a bit like woe is me. I feel like a new moon in Aries, that is the soldier or the warrior who's been beaten down by all this conflict and is just like given up, is resting. And when we give up and when we surrender, right, we make room finally for that light to enter us, to inspire us to get back up and keep going. But we can't have that without a period of exhaustion and depletion, which is just what I'm getting from a new moon in Aries with all this activity in Aries. It's going to be like, take that day to rest, to sleep, because sometimes that is actually what feeds the most productivity in the end. All right. We definitely want to be slowing things down come Friday. We definitely want to just be acknowledging where there's some hurt, where we need healing, where we've been a bit bruised or a bit battered by the month so far. Because on Sunday, April 19th, there is a very difficult transit happening. And we're going to unpack why it's a difficult transit. Um, but I will say, I don't know if on Sunday, April 19th, we'll be getting the prettiest news. We'll be seeing the prettiest things. Our world is already in a pretty ugly state if we look out there. But this could feel dark. This could feel dark. Um, it at the same time could also feel like when things get so dark, all we have is light because we're forced to look up and see just a little sliver of light. So this is also a day that is going to be brewing up some feelings, um, some emotions, some anger, some movement that's going to allow change to happen. But it may be instigated by something that isn't feel good at first. Okay, so we have on Sunday, April 19th, Mars and Saturn. In ancient astrology, these were the two malefic planets. Malefic means bad doer. Okay, so you have Mars and Saturn coming together in a conjunction in the sign of Aries, in the sign of heat, in the sign of war and conflict and aggression and self righteousness and ambition. Okay, this could very well be a day where our government, our city, our town, Saturn is structures like that. Okay, it's like big societal structures. Receive some sort of conflict, engage with some kind of conflict. Now, I don't want to say war, but that is a, traditional signification of Mars. And especially when it gets with Saturn, that's governments, that's authorities. So that may not happen at all, but archetypally, it speaks to the potential for something conflicting in our structures, in our governments, in our societies to be on display. This, at the same time, feels like a potent time for social change and action. Because Saturn is, we'll just work with the example of the government, and Mars is our desires, this is a powerful day as well for protest or to see perhaps the results of protest growing, right? Like we can actually see a benchmark on this day towards more social justice, towards more rights. But it may be happening through a fight. It may be happening through a not so pretty negotiation, right? And as we can see, the more people are protesting and putting themselves out there to effectuate social justice, that is becoming more difficult every day. That's becoming more surveyed by police. And if you're in the US, the military. There are a lot of forces coming at those who dissent right now. So on this day, there could just be a benchmark chapter that either showcases that dissent and that social reform, or people who gather because something on this day inspires them to. And really looking at the world right now, this isn't far off, right? Now, at the same time, more personally, this is a time I think that we realize our own accountability. Okay, because Saturn, you can think of it as a judge as well, or an authority figure. And if Mars is the actions we've been taking, it reminds me a little bit of the Justice card in the tarot. There is some sort of justice that we might be working out in our personal lives at this point. And likely it has to do with our own actions and being accountable to our own actions and our own selves. Have we been, sticking to our principles? Have we been showing up in the ways that we have established? This could just be a major reckoning point also in our personal lives for, are we displaying actions that match the long-term structures and goals we want to fulfill? Okay, so Sunday, April 19th, you're going to be hearing a lot about that if you follow other astrologers. But that is my take. That is my synopsis. And may I just add, astrology is archetypal. It's not literal, right? Meaning that astrology reflects, it does not predict or cause events, but rather reflects what is going on in the world. Okay, so with that, we will continue. Okay, so on Monday, April 20th, the sun goes into Taurus. Now, look, there's probably still going to be a lot of chaos in the world, but I will say Taurus transits bring a bit of peace. They bring a bit of, go outside and touch grass kind of energy. Sun is life force. Sun is focus. Sun is the motivation to get up every day and what we notice when we get up every day. So April 20th, this is a time to begin really enjoying that morning cup of coffee, right? After the 19th, we're probably going to need a gratitude practice. No, so really enjoy that cup of coffee. Enjoy the hell out of it. Enjoy the simple pleasures in life. That's what Taurus is all about. It's about the simple pleasures in life that are right there under our feet. It could be the grass, it could be the socks you wear. I don't care what it is, but it's about finding appreciation in the minute, in the small, in the local as well. Um, and this is just about regulating and getting a sense of peace in ourselves, a sense of harmony back if we can. Okay. Now, on that same day, we're still going to be having Mars and Saturn in a conjunction. And then that same day, we're going to have Mercury join it. Okay. So that only emphasizes why the peace and the grounding and the appreciation that we get through Taurus is important on this day. Because at the same time, communications and news outlets and media and all of it could just be going. Woo, woo, woo. So, April 20th, Monday, let's find some Taurus, right? Let's find some simple pleasure. Let's make a good meal. Let's have good sex. Let's just indulge ourselves a little bit. Like if you're debating buying the cake this day, buy the cake. If you're debating buying the bag, buy the bag. Because unless maybe Aries is your second house, this could be a day you might want to save money. But definitely a good idea to treat yourself amidst global, social, also internal chaos, right? One of the theories of astrology I love as well is that the above is as it is below. The body is a reflection of the cosmos, and the cosmos are also reflected in society and in relationships. So everything is kind of connected through this model. If you aren't a huge, follower of politics, then this might more apply to you in a personal sense. There could just be stress. There could be a lot adding up, and you just need that little break, that little piece of indulgence, that little piece of heaven. But I've overemphasized that enough. Okay. So on Friday, April 20th and Sunday, April 26th, this whole weekend is gonna be finally, finally some movement, some planning, some like, this is what we're doing and we are communicating it and we're blasting it and we're letting everybody know about it and the message is getting stronger and the communication networks and relationship networks are getting stronger because we are having Venus and Uranus move into Gemini on Sunday. So, Venus and Uranus moving into Gemini. Gemini is all about communication networks. It's all about what we all have to teach each other. It's about messaging and communication. When those two planets go in to Gemini, there is a very powerful step we're making in how we're communicating, in how we're gathering, and how we're building relationship networks. Okay? Before that, though, Venus and Uranus are going to be conjunct on Friday. Now, we'll explain these planets a little bit more. Venus is relationships, it's pleasure, it's love, it's appreciation, it's who's in our life, and it's how we relate to each other. Uranus is individuality, and it is the process of self-actualization, and it is breakthroughs and upsets and upheavals on the way to realizing our individuality. So if on Friday there's a bit of a clash in your relationships, there's a bit of a like, well, I'm going to be me and you're going to be you, then that can end in dramatic ways. That can lead to some issues in relationships. But what I want to say is that this is actually a beautiful transit because it is a point of recognizing something huge, which is that each person kind of has their own reality, kind of has their own self to create, their own individuality, and that actually we are so much stronger in our relationships when we're each allowed to be our own person. So, Friday, the 24th of April, encourages us throwing off expectations of each other, letting our freak flags fly. It's a tongue twister, isn't it? Letting each other be whoever we want to be. And sure, we're seeing that in our collective right now try to be suppressed and controlled, but how can we be the models for diversity and for including multiple identities, multiple ways of being and of existing and of looking at the world, right? So that is Venus conjunct Uranus. Now, if you need to set a boundary or if a relationship's breaking apart, let it. But the point of that experience is not at all to control the other person. It's learning how to release control and it's learning how to just be more okay being who we are. Okay? And I want to say that on Sunday, when those two planets go into Gemini, there's going to be this renewal in our social life, in our social networks, in our sense of community and camaraderie and and breaking things through together. Like if you are interested in building new community to create art, to do activism, to do whatever your calling is, this is a great time to do it. This is like the freaks getting together, gathering out in the streets and singing hallelujah. I mean, it's just the season for that come the end of April. Now, on this note, I'm also going to say that Uranus moving out of Taurus, that marks a huge ending because Uranus has been in Taurus for 7 years. Okay? So for fixed signs, that's Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, and Aquarius, this ends a major chapter of change for you, of change either in yourself, in your home, in your relationships, in your career. All those areas of life for super fixed people have been totally revamped. And you're at the end of a huge change. Now, collectively, Uranus and Taurus is a big, 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 big change to Taurus things. So that's economy, that's resources, that's agriculture, that's the land, that's the environment, that is food as well. We have seen so much become exposed about these types of industries, about these types of figures, right? About big business and the economy, and also big food and big pharma. All the things we rely on for wellness, right? I think of Taurus as like wellness and once again, those themes of nature and those themes of the body and those themes of like survival, what we need to survive. Uranus ending in Taurus has said the veil has been lifted on how we're being told to survive, on, why grocery prices are so high, on why it's so hard to keep money, on why it is so hard to survive in the wealthiest time ever in human history. Like all of that has been Uranus and Taurus, okay? So now the cat's out of the bag when it comes to Taurus, when it comes to the Taurian aspects of society. And the next place, yep, you guessed it, Uranus is ripping off the veil, is going to be in Gemini areas of society. So that is the media, that is communication, that is social media as well. We're going to be seeing a lot change in the mainstream media, film, TV, news models over the next 7 years. That's a Uranus transit is 7 years. So we've already started to see a lot of this, right? Pre-Uranus and Gemini, but this is like when it becomes final in a way. Not that anything's final, but where things change to a point that like you can't go back, So this applies once again to our media, to our news, to our messaging. But what it also applies to is how we're learning and how we're connecting the dots and how we are being informed. So this is actually going to be a great period for people who are educators or creators or people who work with social media because this is going to be saying the world is officially yours. You are able to access the world during this transit. You are able to get your message out there, and people want to hear from you. People want to learn in new ways. I have a feeling we're going to actually see the college system really break down at this time, even the high school system. I'm sorry, even the primary education system, because people are going to be finding new routes to being educated. We're going to be completely rethinking, I think, education and how we learn these next 7 years of Uranus and Gemini. Now, that is not to say Uranus and Gemini is a walk in the park. Uranus and Gemini shows up at points in history that are quite, quite contentious. And if you think about it, this makes sense. Uranus is splinters and cracks and changes, and Gemini is our communication. So when that happens, there is more of a chance for political corruption to arise, for power to arise in unlikely places that turn a bit gnarly and a bit fungal. So we do have to be aware of that as well. But in conclusion, that is the astrology of April 2026. I hope I summarized it in a way that was palatable and understandable. It is a month that is challenging, as you can tell, but does also catalyze a lot in consciousness and in society. Once again, my analysis is not a prediction or a finite description of what is going to happen, but is rather a way for you to reflect on what's happening in your own life, in your observations of the world, using the language of astrology. So, with that, you guys, I'm so happy you joined me for this first episode. I really hope it helped. Again, to book a reading with me, it is https:// backslash ethan-paisley.com. And I'm on social media. If you just type up Ethan Paisley, you will find me on TikTok, Instagram, and Threads. Okay, you guys, thanks so much for being here. I'll talk with you next time.